Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more.
Thanks for checking this. Welcome back.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation.
We are a show founded by veterans and hosted by veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their story to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on, share some of your tips with the audience to help them become better versions of themselves. If you're a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and share how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you're a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and just share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. Reach out, we will get you on. If you are feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle, or are embarrassed to share that with them, please dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make it a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast apps and also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisfitNation. That's @the_MisfitNation. Subscribe and click the bell. This will keep you up to date with all of our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Electrocast Media and About Face Radio. This will keep you tuned into us and learn more about our great guests. Speaking of which, our next guest is a 20-plus year corporate executive and board director. She is currently managing director at Accenture, nicknamed the Turnaround Queen by former colleagues and employers. She inspires and empowers her team and clients to change mindsets and drive growth in business leadership and culture. So without further ado, let's welcome Victoria Pelletier to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi, Rich. Happy to be here.
I'm glad that we, like we said in the pre-show, that we're able finally to really connect. It took a little bit, but thank God we're here today, and you're healthier than you were a couple weeks ago, and doing well. So I just gave a quick blurb on you. If you'd like to expand upon that, go back as far as you want to how you got into the corporate mindset and then to break away from it to where we are.
So makes me feel really old when I talk about my career journey, because I've been doing it for a very long time. I started working at age 11, interestingly, and with plans on being a lawyer. So interestingly, I worked all throughout school and university, and I worked in a bank while I was in university, and I realized how much I loved the corporate world, and I got promoted really quickly. Within 6 months, I was in a leadership role. So by the time I was looking to graduate, they'd relocated me and offered me an even greater promotion. So I thought I'll take a year off before I head to law school and maybe decide whether I move back cross country or not. And I did neither of those things, go to law school or move back. And I realized I loved the corporate world. And 6 years of working in financial services, I got hired as the chief operating officer for an outsourcing company because I'd been running large scale contact centers for the banks, and they had many banking clients. So it was I met a lot of the ticks in their box. Although it was still very much a stretch role for me. So 24 years old, new mom, stepping into this big executive role. And, for me, I just realized how much I loved. There's a lot of complexity that comes in what's been a business to business world for me of professional services. You're serving multiple masters. of not only the organization, if it's public, and its shareholders and the leadership, and obviously serving your colleagues and your employees, but with the clients I'd serve, you serving them, but also their employees or their customers, depending on what work you're doing. So I've loved that. So I've stayed as an executive in what some might think doesn't look like a linear path if you were to look at my LinkedIn profile, but very much there's tangential reasons why I've moved into those roles. But I've also always had a side hustle. I'm a big entrepreneur at heart and try and do it within the organization, but I've done it, on the side as well for myself. I built and I bought businesses. And then other things about me, I'm, as I said, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a fitness fanatic, I'm a foodie, a wine lover, and happy to be here and share and talk with you today.
Awesome. How do you find time to do anything else during the day? And how did you get time to get on the show? That's amazing.
Schedule out far in advance.
Very far in advance, yes. So that's awesome. That's probably a common journey that where people have one goal, they get their foot in the door somewhere else, and all of a sudden they like it, and they get sucked into that world of, like you for the corporate world, get sucked in there for so many years, and then hey, it's time for a change. I got to do this for myself now. When you made that pivot, how was that pivot? And did you have any regrets making that pivot?
Well, as I said, I've always had my feet in two camps. And so a combination of doing it and earning money for large corporates, but then also doing it for myself. And I think early on, it was probably a little bit of fear, but also and wanting to have multiple options available for me. I've been through 18 mergers and acquisitions in my career. And I can tell you, I've been through a whole bunch of like restructuring. Many of the times I'm at the heart of having to do that. But doing it for myself is usually because it was something I was passionate about. I built a natural bath and body product company because I enjoyed making it myself. And then it just kind of grew into a business. And then it got to a point where with my corporate career, I couldn't do it. So I sold it. A number of years ago, I bought a data and analytics company because I thought it was a great opportunity. I didn't plan on running it as its CEO, although I did for about a year or so. And so for me, I've made pivots in terms of maybe even that first one where I talked about leaving what was a relatively safe environment of sitting in a financial services banking environment to this private company where it was a really big stretch role for me. But what I've learned is I will never grow unless I'm challenging myself. So I tend to lean much more deeply into the things that make me uncomfortable and challenge me because I hate the status quo.
I think that's what a lot of the listeners here, they live by that mindset, like Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother, challenge accepted. And if you put a challenge out in front of a lot of these listeners, they will say, oh, I'll do that. No matter how much it hurts or how much pain it's going to be, they'll push forward. And it's on my board in front of my desk right here, challenge accepted. When I was told I had too much time during the week, I took a challenge and made this podcast because I had 8 hours of my week that wasn't allotted to anything. So I said, let me do something I've never done before. And I started a podcast. And now 237 episodes later, 238 today, I think it's going pretty well. And I'm still have more time during the week. So I'm thinking of something else to wrap my mind around for those extra hours without getting my wife too angry.
Yeah, that's important.
It's very important. And, her being a teacher, she needs her time when she comes home and to decompress. So I try to stay away from her during the decompression time and then come back to her after that.
Good, wise man.
I've learned over the years. I think it's hard to read those books, but I got them. I think I'm starting to understand some of them. So when you were in the leadership roles, I know on your profile it says diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mm-hmm. And now it's a big thing now in the corporate world, DEI, everything has to have an acronym. So DEI is how they go by now. And I had a couple of friends sit on a panel, I think in December down in Nashville for a DEI conference. And they said it was the most robust panel they've ever been on. Have you seen the growth for that in all corporate America or corporate world, the DEI stuff?
Yeah, I have for sure. I mean, when I took that first executive role, that was probably where I really sort of formulated my passion and work and advocacy around DE&I. But it was because I felt like I was the only. So I was 24, as I said earlier. So I was the youngest by probably about 2 decades in the room. I was the only woman as well. And I also leading an contact center outsourcing environment like 20 plus years ago was a lot heavy telemarketing. That's not, a desired role. It tends to be one that's interim for new immigrants to the country or in between jobs. And so I had many people from diverse backgrounds. and to make it a place that was more attractive, to retain them, have them stay there longer, perform more effectively, and be engaged. I recognized I needed to actually create a better environment where they felt like they could show up and they belonged. So my work in DEI started 20 plus years ago, and there were no employee resource groups or business resource groups formulated then. And now every company has one for sure. And so everyone's talking about it. But what I see, Rich, is there's this like level of maturity for different companies. There's some that do it because it's a tick in the box and they realize they have to. But the ones that are most mature are recognizing that it's a responsible way to do business and that it actually drives really solid business results. Not just a good thing to do for employees and, for the communities that you sit in, but it's actually very good, for business in terms of innovation, productivity, engagement, problem solving, all those kinds of things.
And I think it's something that in a lot of the mature companies was happening behind the scenes before it became the new acronym, and they just now broadcast it, even though it was there all those years, and it actually builds a better culture within the organization, I believe, because then you don't have a lot of animosity within the building or within the cubicle farms that people looking over, oh, they're getting better favoritism because they're this person or that person. They know it's not like that because everyone's getting treated exactly the same. You may perceive something a little different to yourself some days, but that could just be a weird perception that you can just talk to someone about. And I think with the mature companies, like you said, it has been there for a long time, and now the younger companies are just trying to broadcast that we are DEI, we do this, we do that, but you're really not doing anything. You're just checking that block, like you said.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what's sad, though, I will tell you, is despite the fact that most companies have, formalized programs, many of the larger companies have a chief diversity officer who's the point person, I think, to do reporting and policies. But I will tell you that they're not the person that owns it. Every leader in the organization and every person in the organization, I think, owns raising their voice when they see something in a microaggression or something happening in the workplace. But the part that still saddens me is the massive gap that still exists. So the World Economic Forum did a research, or they do it every number of years, on looking at gender parity and pay equity. In North America, it's only another 60 years before women reach parity. But when we look at other countries around the world, it's like 100 plus years. You look at the Fortune 500 CEOs, it just hit 10% women, and there's only 6 Black CEOs, right? So we're talking about it, but the needle hasn't moved demonstrably. So we still have to do a lot more.
So yeah, a lot of more work has to be done. And having a daughter, I look at those numbers a lot, and I know she has no desire to be in corporate world, but she works in a corporation. So I told her, you're in there, you need to fight for what's right for you, not for just what's good for the company, what's right for you. And if you don't like it and it's not working well, move somewhere where it will be well. So I try to instill that in her, and all, even my female soldiers, I tried to treat every soldier the same way and not show favoritism until right at the very end. I had a soldier that was almost the exact age as my daughter, so it was kind of hard to separate work from home. I was yelling at one at home, yelling at one at work, and it felt like I was yelling at the same person. So it's time to retire. I got to get out of here. So that was my cue right there. But other than that part right there, everything was usually equal.
That's right.
And I know when you came at 24 years old, going into the corporate world as a female, that even with the numbers you just said, numbers female CEOs back then, it was almost a dogfight for you to get into that position, and an anomaly for you to be in that position. So that was an obstacle that you had to face very early on. Have you been able to mentor, teach, coach other females to do the same thing, or other people in the business world to, hey, step up and fight for what's right for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of my time doing both formal and informal coaching and mentoring to lots of women, certainly, but to just many people within the organization. And a big part of that coaching and mentoring is a little bit like what you told your daughter, around going after what you want. I have the, saying, you don't ask, you don't get. Now, sadly, both my children have learned that, my younger one in particular, and ask. But, understanding your value and your worth and going for it. Another interesting statistic is that women typically only apply for roles if they believe they have 9 or 10 out of the 10 skills or requisite requirements for the role, whereas men will apply it with 6. And so gaining confidence in the skills and what you bring to the table, again, your value and your worth. I'm not a fan of fake it till you make it, except with confidence. So show up there and understand and be confident in making that ask. So, I've spent a lot of time sharing my own story and kind of the challenges and pain points I've had in my career, telling, people in their 20s things that I wish I could have told my 20-year-old self, to help make their journey a little bit better.
And that definitely helps them. I'm sure they may not say it at first until maybe a couple of weeks, months, years down the line. They say, you know what, I remember who told me this, and this is the person I'm going to say thank you to, or maybe just give them a thumbs up, or give you a shout out when they're on the show talking about it. She's the reason why I made this step forward and understand my worth and understand my personal branding.
Yeah.
And pivoting onto personal branding, I know your personal brand is doing that is very so many of the things you're really good at. How does someone building as an entrepreneur too? Yeah, both you have to have a good personal brand to have be an entrepreneur, and you got to do both pretty well together as you start off. And that way, you're not working in your business all the time. You're working on your business and getting it right. How do you teach people to, hey, you got to build that personal brand for both you and the business, and then try to combine them as one?
Yeah, I've been doing it for decades now, and it's when I made that shift, from a like business to business environment, and realized who I was competing with. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't purely going to be on cost. If all things being equal, people do business with people they like and trust and want to do business with. And so, as I started to be out there at conferences and events, they're as much as they're buying my team in the business of whatever services we're providing, they're also buying me, and do they have trust and faith in my ability and my team's ability to deliver. So I've been doing it for a long time without 20 years ago calling it personal branding, but I attribute that very much so to my personal success. But what I would tell your audience is that it is so much more than your company name and your job title within it. It is about who you are as a whole individual. And so there's not a separation in my mind between the, personal and professional. You're one whole person. When you meet me at a work setting or in a, personal setting, this is the same Victoria, period. But I want people to know who I am. So for me, my personal brand, sure, is that I have years and years of experience in corporate America as an executive. I'm passionate about diversity and inclusion, but I also spend a lot of time talking about leadership and culture, because I want to work, for good human-centered leaders that support me. So I want people to understand what I stand for, the values that I'm committed to doing the right thing. But also your personal brand are the things that can help build bridges with others. So what are your personal passions and interests that can help as you're just trying to reach out potentially to a new prospect to sell them? So for me, I speak pretty openly about things like, even in my intro, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, foodie, a fitness fanatic. I've done business in the hockey arena. You might hear a slight accent. I'm originally from Canada. So not shocking that I play hockey and my kids play hockey. Although now that I live in Miami, that's not so much anymore. Exactly. But I did business there, but as well. So it's just, how do you build that connection? But what I would tell people too is you are the CEO of brand you. So you curate what that narrative is, what people you want to know about you. It's not false, it's authentic. But again, you're building that, or otherwise someone's going to make that up on your behalf.
Right. They'll make like I said earlier about perception. They'll have a perception about who you are, not actually who you are, but what they believe you are, because you're not really given an authentic picture of yourself. It's hard to erase someone's perception without having to go through many, many different roles or many different shows to be on to actually say who you are. So the world will hear, minus that one voice on social media.
Right.
And like 20 years ago, social media wasn't really a bad thing. It wasn't really blowing up like it is now. And now, even for kids in school, bullying, they can't turn it off when they go home because social media is there. And the same thing in the corporate world or any business. One bad review online can kill you, in a local or small entrepreneur can kill you, even if it's false. Because even Google, if you use a false review, they don't take it down. Even if you contest it, it stays there forever.
That's right. That's right.
So how do entrepreneurs, especially, and the small business owner, fight that and just keep the happiness of their business and keep it growing?
Well, I think there needs to be a constant awareness of exactly what you stated, Rich. And so that in the moment where The saying that the customer's always right. And we know that sometimes that's not the case. And like, I'm very quick to emotion. Like I will flare and get heated fast. So for me, it's remembering, in that moment, the customer's always right. I need to be mindful of how I'm going to respond. And I actually believe that a big part of the reason there's, repeat business in the companies I work for is one, because we delivered well, but if we messed up, and we will mess up at some time, it's how do we recover from that? And so I think that for the entrepreneurs listening, need to be mindful of that, even when you've got that heat sitting here and you're ready to explode. So that, that would be one. But the other is to recognize that, your brand will evolve and change over time, and you can make pivots. You just need to continue to work at it diligently. This isn't a set it and forget it. Like I put a web page up or I put my LinkedIn profile up and I'm done, right? You need to constantly be at it. And again, if you make that, move out of corporate to become an entrepreneur, again, you're going to shift in the things you talk about. You're still the same individual, but you're going to bring other elements into it as well. So I think your audience needs to know that they've got, permission to fail at some point. We don't want to, but there's still an opportunity to recover and pivot.
Right. And something we like to say here is you're not judged by how many times you fall. It's how many times you get back up. Same thing. Anytime someone, like you said, if you flare up by accident or you couldn't hold in your emotions, but it's how you recover from that. How you say, look, this is our fault, our bad. We'll make it right with you. Can you just come back and give us another chance? If you do that, I'm thinking most businesses will succeed that way. It's just hard now with people who don't even go in your store but give you a bad review, and that kills local business.
It does. It's unfortunate.
And it's too easy to be the keyboard commando, I guess I like to call them. But
well, it's funny you say that, because I actually talk about having electronic courage, sitting behind the screen and typing away. Yeah.
I'm so tough. I'll do this to you. Do you think your emotion, your flaring up, does that come from your hockey background? Were you a fighter on the hockey rink, or were you just a shooter?
Well, interestingly, I didn't actually start playing hockey until I was in my 20s, because my ex played hockey. But I did play volleyball and basketball. So I've always been like team sports. And I'm super competitive. And so I am not a dirty hockey player, but because I'm a weightlifter, I'm usually the strongest woman on the ice. And so I will tell you, I've gotten penalties even off the face-off when I've taken it, just because I can hold my own. But I will win. And when I set a goal or objective on something, whatever it is, like I'm determined I'm going to achieve it.
That's outstanding. I will win. Don't worry.
Right.
And I mean, that's a good attitude to have, though. It helps you when you moved into corporate world and to where you are now. I will get this done right. It's not I will win all the time. I will just do it right and I will succeed. I mean, you're not going to push someone off the table and when you're negotiating, but you're going to show them what you have and what you bring to that table to make them say, look, yeah, we want to go with your company, or we want you to be part of our company.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's, the talk of, and, you as a military man, not the battle versus the war. And so there's trade-offs and you make choice, and, it's a relationship in business.
Right.
So yes, I want to win. I don't know if you've read Simon Sinek's The Infinite Game, but that's one of the things he talks about is like, you don't win at life, nor at business. And so I love that philosophy, and far too many people take that approach. So although I'm competitive and I like to win, I've learned how to, in certain instances, when you sit back, you let others win, or just when you compromise.
I've learned through the military not to let others bring me down or make me get my rage up, especially when we were in war. People would butt heads because you're all under stress in war, and I want to do it my way, you want to do it your way. And I was butting heads with another senior leader for probably 3 weeks in a row, and it was about to come to blows, and another senior leader came in and said, why don't you just sit down and have a Coke? So I don't want to sit down with him, and I don't want a Coke right now. It's too hot. He said, no, I want you two to sit and talk. Find out what your problems are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we did. We sat down and talked and found out, and we became friends. And everything went away just by sitting down and talking instead of butting heads, because we wanted the same thing, just saying it different ways and wanting it to be my way or his way. It was the same end goal, end state, but getting that big head off our shoulders and learning to compromise and make things work and win the victory in the end. We won that battle. So
Good.
Learned a valuable lesson. And that's something I still do now. I've calmed down a lot since I left the military. So that was good. That's 7 years now. I've been able to just become compromise and basically negotiate with everyone I talk to, even at my job, my day job. I negotiate while during the day just so they stay calm. And sometimes they'll get flared up just watching something stupid on TV. And can you affect what's on the TV? No, let's go. Let's move forward. I mean, you can't yell at the TV. They can't hear you. They really can't hear you. Let's go about our day and let's be productive.
Yeah,
That's a good idea. Hey,
that's right. Control the things you can control.
right. It's the little things in life that you can either let them destroy you or just move forward. And that's what I try to push to everybody.
That's great.
And I think that's what you have done throughout your career without even knowing it probably at first. And then it kind of blended in. Now you look back and say, oh, I've been doing this whole time. And now I can have these life lessons you can give to your children and to all those people you have mentored along the way.
That's right.
So now, how do you, the young entrepreneurs now, they're trying to build businesses. What's great tips for them to start a business? I know you said earlier, if something you're passionate about is probably the best thing to do, something you have a lot of passion for. But what other steps should they take to build a business now?
So I do very much believe to find something you're passionate about, but obviously you need to recognize the opportunity in the marketplace for it. And so but there's a new way of thinking. And I actually think big corporates get it wrong. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, are succeeding, is they look at, instead of a total addressable market, or a TAM, which is a corporate term for, how our business is going to grow. Is it like a bit of the market share or wallet we're missing? Looking at solving the total addressable problem. And so there's not always going to be data to support that. So when you are sitting there and you realize there's a problem out there, how are you solving? And ideally, it's one that you're connected to. That's where the passion comes. And so you take, what's this problem that you could potentially solve with a business that you could initiate, products, services, whatever. But that again, something you're passionate about, because it's hard work being an entrepreneur. And if you're going to put in 60, 70, 80 hours a week as you're, building it, I certainly hope it's something that you love doing or brings you joy at least 80% of the time. I have an 80-20 rule, right? There's always going to be 20% of the time I hate some of the administrative stuff I have to do. There's going to be some people I don't always enjoy working with, but 80% of the time I should get up looking forward to my workday.
Definitely. You don't want to wake up angry that you're going someplace to do something that you used to love 2 days ago and now you hate it because you have to actually do the work in it instead of actually enjoying what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But then there's the other piece of advice I'd give as well is recognizing, as entrepreneurs, I think they feel like they need to do it all, particularly when the business is smaller. And but there's great ways. There's things you're going to have to do. I've learned is, to do everything I do, and I sit on boards and I'm a public speaker. I say no to a lot of things. So your entrepreneurs listening will need to learn to say no. However, we can't always say no, and therefore outsource or delegate. And there's lots of great ways to do it, quite cheaply. I found, the guy that maintains my speaker's website sits in India, and I found him through Upwork, right? So there's a lot, and very low cost. The labor arbitrage is amazing. And so I just think, for entrepreneurs to think a little bit that way and not take on too much. And again, I know that's hard when sometimes there's not money to fund people, but I think there's some really creative ways to go about it as well.
Definitely. And I think, like I said earlier, working in and working on your business, that usually is when people burn out, when you tune too much of the in instead of on it. And that kind of makes them say, I don't want to do this no more. And I'm just going to close these doors and hand these keys back in, stop paying rent to this building, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So you kind of lose your passion. And then you try to find the next thing that you are passionate about and try to do the same thing again and keep making that same mistake until you realize I'm doing something wrong and find someone that can mentor them.
That's right.
So, Victoria, it's been a great chat. Yeah, I think you put out a lot of great information for the Misfit Nation. Where can people get in contact with you or find out what you're up to and maybe get you to be on their show?
So I mentioned my website. It's victoria-pelletier.com, or you can certainly find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And the website is going across the bottom of the screen right now, and it will be in the show notes. So, Victoria, thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for patience between, I guess, the both of us to get this thing going. And I hope you can find some hockey down there in probably not Miami, Tampa Bay. At least you got hockey. You get some good hockey in Tampa Bay, and you get to see all the teams. But hopefully, you get to see some of that. Maybe get some intramural games going and have fun.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
You have a good one.
You too.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. It's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are